is what happens daily, because it's a city system. Different sounds all the time. Right outside the door, and they had the jackhammer going from next door to next door, and jackhammer. I'm on a construction site, and I literally am, because they openly have a sign up on the side fence saying construction site. Construction of destructing my human, happiness inside your house, shall we say, where you can't even find a bit of peace and quiet inside your actual house where you live, much less on the Sydney city streets, like in the suburb of Leichhardt, in the inner west section of the city of Sydney, in the huge country of Australia. But the city is where the android population is. That just simply means people who are using technology to track, suppress and control other human beings, because they're different species. One has more humanity, or at least tries to, and the other has none. So you have psychopaths combining in large groups, making up most of the population in the inner west section of the city of Sydney, which is like many suburbs, so that's many 100,000 people. And overall in Sydney you have over 4 million, so at least 90% or more of the actual Sydney population is of a different technical artificial type of human, which is exactly the same as humans tracking and watching and playing a video game with real humans if they have turned very malignant in their personality type. In other words, if they have adopted over time, due to environmental factors, the narcissistic personality disorder, which is now becoming known to be psychologically common, and we've been informed of this. And if you've watched millions of psychological demigod psychology videos, as I have, then you understand this, because you do this after you have had unfortunate experiences with psychopaths over a lifetime. When you finally realise this, and then you look into it, and you're like, that's a textbook copy of people I've known. And that's how you realise this. But unfortunately, it's not just a few isolated, small 1% psychopathic population. It's the reverse. It's a small percentage of human population and a large percentage of psychopathic population. But they are actually a different species. And you have an army, artificially intelligent machine workforce, and also a legitimate, real army, artificially intelligent army force. This comprises not just your proper policing forces, but also the real live army. It's just that they elicit the support and the cooperation and collaboration of less qualified or less active civilian androids into the program, so that way they have a total controlled city. So I'm trying to explain just the difference in the ratio of the population, that's all. But seeing is believing, so if you don't actually have it exposed to you, as I have, unfortunately, then you probably won't see it. And you'll believe the reverse statistics, because as we're told, this is a reverse world. Everything that you think is actually the opposite or reversed round, even statistics, I would say, because that isn't what I perceive. If I see everyone patrolling and everyone tracking you and everyone part of it, and when I say everything, I mean where you have not just a traffic system that patrols and literally hits you with road rage as they go past. This is just part of it, but it's the fact that there's too much traffic, that it's the numbers too. It's the fact that on the few Sydney streets that I go on, the traffic is astronomical in its numbers to what it is meant to be, and this is actually acknowledged even by those that are part of it. So there's nothing hidden about that. Because in reality, if I actually said to someone on the street, why is there so much traffic? Why are there so many big lorries? Why are there back-to-back buses? Why aren't they on their, conventional routes? Why are there so many motorcycle gangs going past? Basically, they will say, yes, it's just because they converge on these particular few streets where you are. And they'll say, that's just not because of you, that's just because they converge there. But either way, they shouldn't be there, and either way, it is an anomaly, that's right, that they only converge on a few streets, in the whole inner west section of the city of Sydney. Everywhere else, there's very little traffic, according to most people, so the underground tunnel system that they're built entirely under the city of Sydney does actually work, but it doesn't work for me, because the few streets that I go onto, yes, the traffic is like bumper to bumper, traffic jam, too many large, huge semi-trailers and trucks, too many buses back to back, all not going on the conventional allotted bus routes. And of course, all this is a program, so if I was waiting for a bus, I may or may not get one. So this is another thing too. It's all designed to keep a human being in low frequency and low vibration. And this is just the sad, stark reality that most people don't want to accept or can't see, because it's not like I'm brilliant. It's basically that it's just been exposed to me, because when they bring in the final program on a human being, one by one, where they're basically taking you down and taking you out one by one, segregating and separating you and then eliminating you, but in the meantime extracting all the knowledge and all your humanness from you so that they can use it to imitate being you or being a human, but also extracting the necessary life energy from you through this process. So it's a diabolically negative situation for humanity, particularly as they do it one by one and in secret, and separate you from your own kind, and your own kind probably wouldn't even understand it unless they actually see it full force, because many humans acknowledge some of the things that I say, but they don't acknowledge the whole program, and they don't understand how vast and high the technology actually is, how how much surveillance, how detailed and intimately you're actually tracked, and how much they're actually studying you and copying you and infiltrating your humanness and taking your human energy for their life so they survive and they actually appear to be the best, while the human being is suppressed and made to look the worst and feels the worst and eventually is, exterminated. I mean, this is really, this is what has always been going on. It's really what they call human genocide, and life genocide too, because the puppies and the dogs that are outside are being hit with the jackhammer sounds in their poor little ears, just like I am. But they've stopped it now that I've recorded this, so it's like that. They're extremely cunning, extremely sneaky, and because they have the technology to know what you're doing and what you're, what you're saying, basically, they can turn the sound on and off. They can change the situations around in a second. They can patrol and stalk and follow you and watch you and suppress you to their heart's content and get away with it, because basically it's the perfect human genocide crime, because you're outnumbered by whole vast communities that are part of this human policing, human mind control set up system, so that they get what they want, they thrive and survive, and you slowly die and become extinct as a human species, because this is only happening to human beings that have some humanity or some humanness in them. The others are all part of this program because they're a different species. They're your androgyne species, and of course you have a totally artificially intelligent survival machine army and workforce, where basically they are army soldiers or army operatives, whatever word you want to put it, but they've used all the community, I think, industries and all the community, forces, like your police and your different departments, shall we